Mount Pico? It's the tallest point in Portugal. Wait a minute. It's not where? It's not in mainland Portugal. What's that tell you about mainland Portugal? Is mainland Portugal filled with high mountains? Where is their tallest peak? 850 miles away is the tallest peak in what they call Portugal. Portugal does not have any high mountains. Do not go mountain climbing in Portugal. They go mountain climbing in Spain, in northern Spain, where you're getting closer to the Pyrenees, which is a mountain range that divides France from Spain. There's a little country called Andorra that's up there in the mountains. That's where you find the mountains in that part of Europe. Portugal is relatively flat. I mean, it's not littered with huge mountain peaks. So, let's move on. Who discovered, in whose name were the Azores discovered? French citizen. Please change it. Henry, and I don't want Henry written down there. What do I want written down there? Henri. Okay? Henry is his English name. Is he English? Yes. He's half English, but yes, he's the Prince of Portugal. So we're going to call him Prince Henri. You have that you should be able to find somewhere in your material. Okay, so Prince Henri sent a ship out, and they found an island of the Azores. What was the problem with the Azores? It's uninhabited. Why? What? No, it's not cold. It's warm. So what else is missing from the Azores to make them a place where people have been living for thousands and thousands of years? There's no large animals for food. Okay, can you live off of birds and squirrels and other things that are small?
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, anybody who in the past has ever gone through the Azores has decided the Azores were not a place to stay because there wasn't enough food to support them. So what's happened to anybody in history that's gone past the Azores? Raised to them and then they've moved on. So the Portuguese are the first to do what the Azores? Inhabit them, colonize them. But they did not colonize them with people first. What did they do to the islands to make them someplace where people could actually come and live? They put sheep there. So for 3 years, sheep are grazing on the main island on the Azores, eating food. There's plenty of grass and things for the sheep to eat, but people can't live off that. But the sheep can. So now the people show up 3 or 4 years later. They've got food and they've got clothing materials. Wool. Now they've got lamb's meat to eat if they want to start butchering them. And of course, they're already reproducing. So all you got to do is keep them reproducing, and you've got a stable supply of food. Now, what do they bring with them later on? At the bottom, chickens, rabbits, cattle, goats, pigs, and even more sheep. Okay, but initially, sheep is their food source. So when they show up on these islands with the first colonists, they at least have something to eat until they have a chance to plant crops. Who is given credit for bringing the first colonists over to these islands and making them live there? What's his last name? Cabral. Why do you recognize that name? Who's Cabral? He's the guy that went to Brazil. Who do you take with him? Who died? Diaz. Diaz is with Cabral. Cabral goes in like 13 ships, finds Brazil, and then goes around Africa, except that 4 of his ships sink, and that's where Diaz dies. That's Cabral is the same family as this Cabral. So what kind of people are the Cabrals? Are they explorers? Okay, this guy is actually like his great uncle. There's a family connection. So this Cabral is tied to the explorer Cabral. They are a family who has traditionally been basically hired by the monarchs to explore in the name of Portugal. So it's not surprising to find a Cabral in exploration. Okay, what's this Cabral doing besides exploring? He's inhabiting. He brings with him several hundred people, and guess what they're going to do? They're going to live there. They're going to find a way to make the Azores their home, which means what do you do to all the open ground in the Azores? You start tearing it up with plows to turn it into farmland. You need to grow crops, don't you?
Yeah.
Can the animals you bring over live on grass that's there alone? They probably want something more. I think you want something more substantial than just grass for your horses or your cattle. You want what? Corn. Is corn starting to be grown now in the old world?
Yes.
It's coming from the new world. You can start planting it there. Okay, so they're going to start planting things at some point here to make it so the animals can live and they can grow and the people can live. They start building shelters and homes. They move from island to island, and eventually they start inhabiting how many islands?
9.
9. But originally they start with 1. They all go to the biggest island and they stay there, and then they start to move out from there. So who's from all of this? Who's in the front of this paper? Where's he from? He's from the Azores. Which generation is he? Did he come over there as an adult, as part of Cabral's group, to live there and colonize? What year was he born? Turn the paper over if you don't remember.
1453.
Okay, let's say they colonized the Azores in 1433. How long would people live in the Azores when he's born? 20 years. So what is he? He's a second generation Azorean who came over at some point in the Azores 10, 15 years before this, maybe. I heard it. His parents did. Are his parents part of the first wave of people that come to the Azores and make it their home?
Yes.
So what are they?
Oh, no.
Yeah, they are, but what's their job?
Oh, they're colonists.
But they're also what? Farmers. Were they fishermen or farmers on the Azores?
Farmers.
His parents were farmers. They're raising crops and raising animals. What's he spent his childhood doing? Raising crops, raising animals. But everybody on the Azores also knows what other skill?
How to sell.
How to sail, because
They're around.
They're just good.
especially if they're doing any kind of trade with the other Azorean islands, they're going to have to sail between the islands. And maybe every once in a while, somebody has to take a ship and actually go back to Portugal to bring things they need. Maybe they need more building supplies because there's only a limited amount of actual wood there on the Azores. Who knows what they need, but I'm sure they make trips back and forth. At some point, is Labrador going to be exposed to open sea travel?
Yes.
So when he goes to the King of Portugal and presents an idea for sailing across the Atlantic Ocean, does he have any credentials? His big credential is, I'm born and raised in the Azores. What do I know? I know, you know what, I must have gotten from the Azores to here, so I must know how to navigate 850 miles of water. That's a pretty significant distance. It's not like he's going down the street. Okay? That's like sailing from here to North Dakota. Yeah, it's not a short distance. What?
A far way to sail.
Well, it is a long way to sail, and there's a lot of dangers out there because it's not like they're in a protected cove where the weather doesn't get to them. They're out in the middle of the open ocean. The Azores are out, a long way out, which means storms are always coming through the Azores.
They live on an island that's surrounded by water.
Yeah, big water,
Yeah.
really big water. Yeah, everybody understand that?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so like Puerto Rico then, huh?
Why didn't they take a plane?
Okay, so
Yeah, like
Trump's
hit
fourth
play.
grade book report sounding report on Puerto Rico. It's an island surrounded by water, probably a lot big water. Found a whole ocean of water. You guys heard him say that?
Yeah.
Sounds like a kid with a book. Did I tell you this before?
Yes.
That Colbert was doing that whole Treasure Island book report thing. Sounds like he's anyway. But yeah, but you know what? The one thing that actually makes Puerto Rico make sense here is Puerto Rico part of the United States.
Yes.
It's a territory.
Right. Well, that's what the Azores are still today, and the Madeiras as well. They are autonomous regions of Portugal. They are still like overseas possessions. They are Portuguese, but they're not in Portugal, which means does Portugal spend a great deal of their money and resources to help the Azores and the Madeiras out? No, they're kind of forgotten. Well, isn't that what Trump's point sort of was? Did Trump say anything about, Florida, it's a peninsula surrounded by water on 3 sides, we may help them?
No, because it's connected.
Did he say anything to Houston? Houston, you're a big city, but you're near the water. Too bad. It's been rough for you.
No.
Are we going to pay for anything that happened in Houston and Florida?
Yeah.
Are we going to pay for Puerto Rico?
Yeah.
Well, we are, but he has to point out the fact that they're not a state.
Plus, we have to ship it on the way over there.
And there are laws about how many ships can come into the area on a daily basis. They have shipping things. They had to actually suspend one of those shipping, called the Jones Act, I think, that was an act for limiting the number of international ships coming into port. Okay? They even turned a cruise ship into a medical ship, didn't they? I think they did. I think one of the cruise liners actually stopped the cruise and they actually turned it into a medical for supporting people. Anyway, but in some ways, the Azores are like Puerto Rico. They're sort of part of the main country, but
they're not.
And their distance from the mainland is a problem because they treat them differently. What did Trump tell the people of Puerto Rico when he visited them on Tuesday? What have they done to the budget? They've blown the budget up. Turns out Puerto Rico's debt, the amount of money they have to put into Puerto Rico now to fix Puerto Rico is more than the debt that Puerto Rico owed to our country. And Trump, of course, it's his job to point these things out of Puerto Rico. Yes, you're suffering, but you know what? You're causing us a lot of money. You actually have more debt that we're going to have to pay off and pay all the charges to fix you. It's going to cost more than the debt you owe us. And is that really the conversation you have with the people of Puerto Rico at that moment? Is to point out to them their financial inadequacies and why we're going to have trouble paying for them? They're all suffering. What does Puerto Rico have left?
Nothing.
Nothing. What, 5% of the population has electricity at the moment? Okay, most of their homes destroyed, and we're going to talk about money and debt and what you owe us. This is not the right time to do that to Puerto Rico by the conversation. And he also went after the mayor of San Jose. She's a woman, I think, and he kind of ripped into her. She's whiny. Puerto Rican governor, he's a good guy, but she's a whiny mayor. And the Democrats were supporting her, right? They were making her say things that were whiny. Because the Democrats are behind all this. What they do, manipulate the weather?
Yes. Democrats.
Yeah. Okay.
Democrats
Well, that's true.
control the
Okay.
weather.
So, are we completely solid on Labrador? Is the entire? Oh, we're missing something. What are they missing in them? Large animals that are what? Native. They have no native food sources there. All their animals are
Just birds.
birds and things that are more migratory. I'm not sure how many native animals will be there because there's not a lot for them. So I joked about squirrels being there. I don't know if there are any squirrels there at all. I'm not sure what. I would imagine most of the life that is there for animal life is going to be like birds because they're flying in and out.
Yeah, squirrels get there.
How would they took a boat? Years ago, the squirrels were actually sailing the ocean. That's why squirrels everywhere in the world. They used to sail around all the time.
They have secret intelligence.
They have, right? They're little, and they got. Actually, not a squirrel. What is he in Lord of the Rings? Not Lord of the Rings. In Narnia stuff. Who is that?
What it was is basically
Ricochet. Is that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not a squirrel. He's a
Chipmunk.
rat.
Go chipmunk.
He's chipmunk.
I
Okay.
don't
Christopher Columbus was actually a squirrel.
I don't know what Lord of the Rings is, but basically a flying squirrel just saw a ship leaving for Azores and then
Flying
just went
squirrels
off
only
with it.
fly like about 10 feet.
Yeah,
Because they don't really fly, they just glide.
Yes, I know. They don't have. They're not
Yeah,
powered
they-
by anything.
They just go into that ship and when they're going past Azores they just fly.
They flew over. That's it. Flying squirrels inhabit the Azores. They flew off the ships that went
Mr.
past.
Stark,
them.
Mr. Stark, obviously they've been lying to us and they can actually fly around the world.
Okay.
Yeah,
Amelia
scientists-
Earhart is
They've been lying to
flying
you.
squirrel.
Okay. I want everybody to please get out chapter 2. Columbus chapter 2. We're focused today is only going to be on the first paragraph of chapter 2. Okay, we already talked about this a little bit. What happens? What tragedy befalls Columbus and family? His wife, she is what?
Dead.
Well, not yet. She's sick. And because he lives on islands that are a long way away from the mainland, he cannot get the adequate medical care for his wife on the Madeira Islands. She has some terminal illness, whether she's got tuberculosis or smallpox or the bubonic plague, or well, most likely if she has a plague of some kind, he would have it too.
Yeah.
Okay, but she does have something that is